this Ruthenian guy said to me, oh, they just got those dogs now. And they, because the people were going through the border, so I could hear those German shepherds howling there. And by the time we got into this house that was a hut, really not a house, and thatched roof and no chimney, so the smoke would go. And they put us up on this top, and there you had a straw on the floor of this, it wasn't a room, it was attic up there under thatched roof and a little hut. And I remember I just fell into this straw and pretty good, I slept. And they arranged pretty smartly that they would take us on Sunday because that was a conscription day. And a lot of young men were conscripted to go into the army, and because of that there was a lot of commotion on the railroad stations. So we went, we got in, and we got beyond Miskolc, but then somehow the train started to go backwards towards Miskolc, and we didn't like it. And anyhow, to make the long story longer, I guess, we got to Budapest around midnight. There was this Polish wife of the officer, and he was in a camp in Budapest, and my father was in a camp. At that time we thought it was Esztergom, but it turned out that he was in Pilesvárosvár, which was near Budapest, about 10 miles northwest of Budapest. And we got it, must have been around midnight, either 11 or 12 at night, and we took the taxi to take us to this camp where her husband was, and sure enough, they took us there, and he didn't know we were coming. And we came, and they greeted us and said, you're here. And then...
But she wasn't Jewish, or she was...
No, she was Polish. Yeah, she was Polish. She
And there were no Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That wouldn't have helped us if we were Jewish. Although at that time, that was before Hungary was taken over by the Hungarian Nazis.
But Grandpa, did they not know that all the people that were moving around were Jewish, or was everybody just moving around?
No. People were moving around, but you see, a lot of Jewish people, especially lower class Jewish people, not even lower class, the Jewish people that didn't spoke Polish with a Jewish accent, they also was a question of how you looked, if you looked Semitic or not. And those are the giveaways.
Yeah.
So
the fact that you had
so
blue
I was told,
eyes.
for example, don't say anything because I couldn't speak German.
Yeah, but you had blue eyes, and your mother was blonde. And
yeah, no, we didn't behave like Jewish people would behave. The traditional anti-Semitic newspapers would describe.
Yeah.
And Zosia could speak a little bit German because she had 2 years of German in high school at that time.
Yeah.
So the next day, the commander of this labor camp, not labor camp, the prisoner of war camp, called, and we found out my father is in this Pilesvárosvár. So he called the Hungarian commander there, and they sent I think a car, if I'm not mistaken, that we went, and my father was very surprised, but also happy. And next day we went to greet the commander. The Hungarian commander was treating my dad with great respect. You see, what happened was there was a Polish warrant officer and Hungarian non-commissioned officer that somehow were suspecting that my father is Jewish. And how he became non-Jew was that the Polish military identity book had one page in which religion was given, and my father sort of tore this page out, so it wasn't there. However, they made, oh, my father did very well in this escargot because his specialty was communicable diseases, and there were a lot of lice going around. And my dad immediately set up a thing to clean it up, and also set up the clinic and little hospital, whatever, in the camp. And the Hungarian major was so impressed that he wanted my dad to make it, he made him a Polish commander. Every prisoner of war camp has two commanders, the captives and the keepers. So when they made the denunciations that there is a suspicion that my father is Jewish, the Hungarian commander had to notify the Corps command, and they sent 3 colonels as a court-martial, summary court-martial, to make a decision if my dad is Jewish or not. And since my father was an officer, he didn't have to be sworn in, because if you're a gentleman, you don't lie, right? And Hungarians were very peculiar, as I told you the other day. The title was based on your education and your position.
Yeah.
The same thing the Jews are respect. And how my father got into this soldiers' camp was that he didn't like the officers' camp, because all they were doing, they were drinking and having duels. And the Hungarians not only allowed it, but provided them the weapons of their choice. And if necessary, would transport the witnesses, or whatever they called them, in duels, to provide them from one camp to another. However, when those 3 colonels came and they started to ask my dad about his lineage, finally they came to the great-grandmother on mother's side or something. Says, my dad says, I don't know if she was Jewish or not. But so they said that was acceptable. But the Hungarian major had enough thinking power that he said, I better don't have him as a commander. And then they made him a physician and sent him to one of the sub-camps. And the sub-camps had a mission there. The Polish prisoners were sent to Hungarian women whose husbands were fighting on the German front. And after a while, the people in town would call these Polish men by the name of their Hungarian husbands. And not only that, miraculously, some little kids appeared in those houses while the men were fighting on the Eastern Front. Their wives were having babies.
Why would they want to do that?
Why they would?
Why did they put the prisoners?
Because to have a man to take care of the soil and to work and to be, and the house was again a small hut with 1 room, and everybody slept there. Mm-hmm. So it was very peculiar arrangement. Yeah. But that's how it worked. Hungarian and Poles were very friendly together. You see, there were a lot of intermarriage between nobility of those 2 countries. And as a matter of fact, 2 Polish kings